So the first thing we are going to start with are the pronouns. And what are pronouns? As you can see in front of you, it's I, you, and so on. Now, something you need to know here about Arabic pronouns is that we don't have it. In English, you have he, she, and it, but in Arabic, we don't have that. So you might be wondering, how do you refer to items and things, inanimate objects? Everything in Arabic is either he or she. Okay? What does that mean? I mean that the words themselves have gender. So, for example, if I'm talking about a car or a table, the word for table is tarabeza, tarabeza, and that means table. This word in Arabic is feminine. So when I'm referring to the table, I am going to say hiya, I'm going to say she. And you can apply this to everything else. So if you're talking about a feminine object, we're going to say hiya. If it's a masculine, we're going to say huwa. And that's how it is. That's why we don't need it. Okay, it's either male or female. Good. And then what else do you need to know here is that we have three different yous. In English, you have you if you're speaking to a male or female, right? Or a group even. But in Arabic, it's more detailed than that. We have you for male, for female, and for plurals. So that's the major difference between, English and Egyptian Arabic. Of course, in standard Arabic, there are more, but this is everything that we use in Egyptian Arabic. By the way, you can think of dialects as a watered down version of the standard, especially when it comes to grammar. Okay, so it's less detailed, less complicated. So hopefully we can learn together. Now I'm going to say the pronouns and make sure you repeat with me so you can get the sounds as well. Okay, so how do I say I? I say أنا, أنا, أنا. And notice how the A in Arabic, or alif, that's the first letter, is not as open as in English. When you say أنا, it's you see, my mouth is not really open that much. أنا, أنا. Because if you say apple, for example, in English, apple, like that, you have to really open your mouth, right? Apple, apple, very open. But if an Egyptian who doesn't speak English well says it, he's gonna say uh, not he's gonna say apple, like that. Okay? So make sure your A sound is not as open as you would say it in English. And I say the same when I'm teaching English to Egyptians. I tell them to open up the A so they can sound better. So أنا, أنا. You, male, we say أنت, أنت, أنت. أنا, أنت. أنا, أنت. What do I mean by you male? I mean when you're speaking to a male. You speak to a male, and you say you speaking to a male. Good. Now for female, it's the same word, but we have the different ending here. So, inta, inti, inta, inti, and it's a long E at the end, or Y. Inta, inti, inti. Now plural, we say oo, same beginning and everything, but we just have a different ending. Into, and it's not into, like I'm going into blah, blah, blah. It's into, into. Now, did you notice the difference here in the vowel? In English, when you say the letter O, there's like this W that you add. O, O. But in Arabic, it's a flat sound. It's U, into, like that. Okay? Into. So, ana, inta, inti, into. Now, here's a tip to help you learn. If there are too many different options of one thing and you're getting confused, always try to focus on I and you. For example, when we learn about verbs, if we have so many verbs, we have many forms. We have a form for I, you, for every person, we have a form, right? So if it's too confusing for you at first, focus on I and you, because those are the most commonly used ones. You're always going to speak about yourself, and you're always going to be addressing someone. So I and you. He, she, and they, and all of that, we can leave that to later. This is gossip, talking about people, right? So if it's confusing for you already, try to focus on I and you. أنا, أنت, أنتي, أنتو. Good. Now let's look at the next ones. He. I wrote W twice because we pronounced it twice. So get used to that. Ho. It's not how, it's ho. 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 And she also the same thing. Y twice. Hey. Hey. Ho. Hey. Very good. Now the next one. We. This 7 is a very sharp H sound. I said it right here. In Arabic, we have a letter called ha. Looks like this. Ha. Yes. This letter is basically you forcing the air out of your throat, pushing the air out. Ha. Ha. Like that. It's like a H, but very sharp. So we say ihna, 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 ihna. Very good. Ihna. And the A is not very open, remember. Ihna, ihna, like that. And then they, it's a double M. So we say humma, humma, ihna, humma, ihna, humma. Very good. Now let's say them all together in one go. أنا, أنت, أنتي, أنتو. هو, هي, إحنا, هم. Good. Now, there's something that you always need to do to help you remember anything, okay? And that is context. The key to remembering anything is context. What do I mean by that? If I give you a list of words like this and I tell you go memorize it without context, no story, nothing, you will most certainly forget this. I would say 80% you will forget it if you don't keep going back to it over and over, right? So, how can you help yourself remember? You remember by giving yourself context. For example, let me give you a real life example so you can see what I mean. Okay. Let's say you wanted to make a cake and you're a person who knows how to cook and you know how to make cakes, right? So you know your ingredients, you know them, you know you need flour, you need this, you need the one, two, three, you need all of those things. So let's say you don't have most of those ingredients at home. Now you need to go to the supermarket. So usually you have a grocery list, right? But in that case, you forgot to write the list. So anyways, you go to the supermarket and you know why you're going. You're going because you want to make a cake. So you have a specific list of ingredients that you will not forget because you have context. You know you need your flour, you know you need your baking powder, you know you need your whatever. Yeah, so you're not going to forget. But if I just give you a random grocery list and there's no context, there's no specific dish that you want to make, you're gonna forget most of that list. You're gonna keep looking at it. Oh, we needed milk here. Okay, we needed this. Okay, we needed this. But if you try to remember the whole thing without context, it's gonna be really difficult to remember everything. And this is the same case. So how am I gonna give context to new words from a language? You're going to give it context by making examples. Examples. Giving the examples meaning is going to give you context and it's going to be easier to remember. Good.